everything else was not working out well in 22, we were able to have 2 of the 3 biggest special election overperformances ever during my time as leader, and I feel excited about what's ahead. I feel good about what we've done in the legislature to make our candidates and our incumbents ready to talk to voters. We have done what Iowans are asking us to do time and time again, and when we go to the voters, we're going to remind them of that. We helped with their budgets. Republicans only made it worse. So I'm excited to pass the torch on to Leader-elect Meyer and ready for my next adventure.
Is it hard to know that after spending time in the minority, not being able to get stuff done that you wanted to get done?
Yeah, I mean, certainly it's frustrating, and I think what's most frustrating is that Iowans are losing out here because we have a lot of ideas that aren't Democratic ideas. They are ideas that Iowans are asking for. The reason they don't get brought up is because they come from Democrats, and that's not the way it's supposed to work. Iowans want to know that everyone here is fighting for them, regardless of their party. We're trying to do that. Republicans aren't allowing it.
Are there any wins that you can think from that members of your caucus were able to get through?
Yeah, I think that I'm trying to think about specifics here, but I can tell you that we've been able to work across the aisle in many ways on amendments, on making policies better, and sometimes, frankly, it's what bills didn't make it to the floor, the things that we didn't see happen at the end of the day. You know, we've continued to fight against cuts to working Iowans, cuts to collective bargaining, cuts to labor, making sure that when we're doing healthcare cuts, their healthcare policy, that we're actually looking out for everyday Iowans, not the richest Iowans. And so we've been able to bring some of those folks into the fold a little bit. But I think at the end of the day, the most important thing is that we put forward so many ideas that were about healthcare, housing, and childcare, and Republicans did absolutely nothing on any of those bills that is going to lower costs.
You had kept the unemployment bill off the floor for a while, and then of course it popped up today. Yep. What do you think happened that suddenly brought this to the fore today?
We continue to point out the fact that this is a $1 billion tax cut for corporations, and it's rewarding companies that lay off employees. And so I think as we continue to point that out, that stirred up division within the folks in their caucus. I think at the end of the day, leadership pushed the bill to the floor, and I think they're going to regret this vote.
You may have answered this already, but as you look at the big picture of the results from this session, the policies that Republicans have passed this year, what's your main takeaway from the session?
My main takeaway for the session is that working Iowans lost and special interests won. When we look at this session, we've seen so many bills that have been introduced and passed because leadership or special interests want these bills. But when it comes to lowering costs, not a single bill was passed. And I mean not a single bill that will lower costs for Iowa families. We've done nothing on housing this year, not one bill. We've done very little on childcare. We've done nothing to lower healthcare costs. We've done nothing on property taxes. All they've done is allow property taxes to go up in half the school districts across the state because they didn't fund public education enough. So if we're looking at this legislative session through the eyes of the economy, I can tell you right now that Iowa's economy will continue to struggle because House Republicans, Senate Republicans, and the governor have done nothing to help, and they've actually made it worse. Yeah.
Do you think the eminent domain conversation is over?
I don't know. I will tell you that I think that when I talk about special interests getting involved in the conversation and special interests winning the day, I think that when it comes to this eminent domain conversation, special interests are what has led to the fight and why it's been so hard for the Senate to actually pass landowner rights, property rights bills. It's shameful that they haven't been able to do what we were able to do in the House until the very end, and that held up so much legislation. I don't know what's so hard about defending landowner rights, but for some reason the Senate couldn't get it done, and I think it's because of special interests.
I wasn't here for the beginning. Can I get kind of your final thoughts on this session and closing thoughts, I guess?
My biggest frustration with this session is the fact that at the beginning of the session, House Democrats focused exclusively on lowering costs for Iowa families, and the Republican legislature did absolutely nothing to lower costs for Iowa families. If anything, all they did was raise costs, especially when it comes to property taxes that now could go up in half the districts across the state because they didn't fund public education enough. They did nothing for housing, affordable housing. We are in a housing crisis right now. They've done nothing. They did nothing to fix healthcare costs except put 182,000 people, their health insurance at risk. They did absolutely nothing to help the economy here. They looked out for special interests. And just today, on day 121 of the session, They passed $1 billion tax cuts for corporations who lay off workers. This is not the party of working families. This is the party of the special interests, and House Democrats continue to fight back for working families.